the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing.
Thank you for tuning in to Tough Talk Tuesday. I'm your host, Lucas Biggers. Alongside me is our First Lady there, Sakura A. Our main man, James, there in LA.
Hello.
Robert Alexander down in Georgia. How's it going, Rob?
Last but not least, huh?
I just went around the clock, see? I just went like this. No offense. But great weekend of fights, guys. The Andy Ruiz Areola card was actually a lot better. And maybe even worth the $50. I think a lot of people would say that it was worth it. Let's talk first, though, about Chisora Parker. Now, I'll admit I didn't have time to catch up on that fight just yet. But Sakura had some hot-bloodedness going on in that fight. Tell us all about it, Sakura.
I'm a little calm now, but that day and that judging, I didn't care for the decision. I didn't think Parker earned that title whatsoever. He did look better in the fight towards, the second half, but that was only because Chisora was tired as hell. I mean, and he still popped off some really heavy punches in those rounds. I just thought that it was clear to me who the victor was. I mean, with the power punches, landing real crisp shots. I mean, it was actually the best I've seen Chisora, I have to admit. So I just thought, that was just a bad decision. I just felt like, where did they come up with this? That's just my take on it. Now that I've calmed down, I'm not as mad because they're saying there probably will be a rematch. So they'll get to, either Parker gets to prove that he really deserves that title, or, we got Chisora that's actually going to get a title in his career. It's just kind of crazy that he's been in the game this long and he didn't ever have one title, but I feel he did enough to get that title last Saturday.
Rob, James, you guys have a different opinion on the fight?
Rob?
No, I think Shakur is absolutely right. But I will say that, in my opinion, I think Chisora has actually been showing us a better showing since the Usyk fight. I just think that Usyk is a little bit is a lot more talented than Parker. So he was able to offset some of the showings that Chisora was able to do in that fight, whereas Parker wasn't, especially in the earlier part of the fight. The only time Parker was able to even do anything was, like Shakur said, it's mostly because Chisora was done. You know what I'm saying? He was shot at that point. Parker was able to get some shots off, and that's it. Normally, when you see that type of fight, they normally give it to the more active fighter. For some reason, they didn't.
Yeah, for some reason.
I don't hear any other arguments, so Sakura's definitely not alone in this. Definitely chime in, guys, if you think that Chisora won instead of...
Right. I just checked my judge pad. Judge pad. I got Chisora. I got to put my binoculars on so I could read this. 114, 113 Chisora. So you give it to him by 1 point. It was a close fight. Like I said earlier, it's difficult to judge. I think the reason for that is that Parker throws a lot of combinations. Chisora, not as many. And I think that sways the judges a little bit. But overall, it was a good heavyweight mashup. It's fun to watch. I watched this last night. It's a busy weekend, but I had a chance to watch it last night. I was pretty happy with it. I don't have a problem with the judges going to Parker simply because it's boxing and there's three of them, and that's the way the cards fell. But again, I gave it to Chisora.
Fair enough. I mean, it sounds like it could have gone either way, so not necessarily a robbery, but maybe a bad decision. And even
then, but he got thumped on in the first round, the first 10 seconds. He was down. Parker was down.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is going to be a brawl. It was good.
Yeah.
I actually watched the heavyweight fight.
Yeah. All right. for those of you that don't know, we're going to put it up on the site yet, but we have yet to do so. Our panelist is actually doing predictions that James is taking care of for us. Rob's like, no, don't mention that. It will be posted, Rob. I'm sorry, but it will. And, you know, James, you kind of, you took to me and you said, all decisions, man? Like, really? So you did kind of talk me into one. I really was considering Fundora anyway, but you kind of talked me into it. I'm kind of glad you did. I got a little bit more points. You know, it's hard to keep up with you, though.
Yeah, James is kicking all of our behinds. I was way better last. I'm going to have to go back to last month.
Yeah, it just to make it easier on you, if you just go KO or decision, that's all you need. But I mean, these fights, most of these fights are pretty easy to determine who's the winner, especially if they're PVC. Yeah, you know, Lara, cornflake, come on. That one was written. That one was written on the wall.
So let's talk about that fight. You think that was that severe of a mismatch that you saw that first round KO coming? I think most of us saw, you know, Lara winning, but a KO like that?
No, I didn't see a KO. I think I called it a decision, but okay. Lara for sure. So what I'm saying is, you know, the winner is just got to determine how it's going to land.
That's the tricky part. Gotcha.
Yeah.
The tricky part.
So
that does make it a little bit more difficult. Let's face it, in boxing, especially lately, there are a lot of mismatches.
There are, but I hope overall you guys are enjoying the program, the competition. Should be fun.
I think it makes
should be entertaining.
It does. It makes the undercards a lot more entertaining. And Rob, I think you're really the only one. I don't know. I'm off Twitter for a while, but do you have a Twitter set up?
I don't know.
You don't even know.
I don't know. But let me just say,
to be more
James,
social is all I'm saying. I think us interacting about our own predictions would also be great. I mean,
but let me just say, James, I was doing a lot more better when you had more of the marquee names on the books.
Right, but you know, the variety is the spice of life.
Yeah, we don't just predict. You know, you gotta dig in the barrel a little bit. Not everything's, you know, cream of the crop.
By the way, I want to mention on that Chisora card that they had Katie Taylor, a female bout. I forgot her opponent's last name, but I felt that was a really good action-packed fight. And Jonas. Yeah. I felt that, you know, Katie once again is in these fights that seem pretty close to me. And you know, somebody's gonna clock her, somebody's gonna get her number, guys. I don't know who, because of that weight class zone, but you know, it's like her soon gave them a blueprint, seems like, because it's like she's getting in these difficult situations. I think she takes way too many punches. You know, in order to get punches. I think that's I assumed that she was just going to dominate that fight, but I'm glad I did get the chance to see it though, because it ended up being a really, really, really good action-packed fight. But congratulations to Katie for getting another W.
Hey, I mean, sometimes a stiff chin is, you know, your best defense.
Hello.
I just don't think it's good long term, you know what I'm saying, for her to be taking punches that she doesn't have to be taking.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I'll email it again, or I'll have someone here email it, and we'll get you one.
Still working with Lou getting them on. Right.
Oh, okay.
All right, Lou. Yeah, I'll send you the link, either email or your phone number again. So it'll come in a minute.
Yeah, email if you can, because it won't open the link. So I had it on Zoom directly.
Okay, so we'll try email.
All right. Muted him just in case he gives out personal information. We don't want that. So, all right. But yeah, Let's talk a little bit further also about the Andy Ruiz undercard. Other than obviously the main event, Rob, what was the main attraction for you?
Other than the main event, I mean, the main event was the main attraction to me, but it was a good card. I will say that. But I really like Ramos Figueroa. I thought that was an action-packed fight, and it was an upset. To me, anyways, a lot of people are saying that it really wasn't. A lot of people are high on this Ramos kid, but I thought it was an upset, and to me, that was the highlight of that card.
Oh my God. Are you not going to say anything about what the hell Figueroa was doing?
He's unorthodox, and we know it, though. You know, he's always
He was
doing
unorthodox
like
before. My gosh. You never seen him be that unorthodox before. Like, that was something different.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, he's moved away from his father, too, right? So he's been trying out different trainers and everything. So that could be an issue.
Well, I thought he had been with Diaz for a couple of, at least 3 or 4 years now. And I'm thinking to myself, like, who in the hell told him to do that? I mean, it was like putting his face right in the position for Ramos to be able to, you know what I'm saying? It's like, he didn't even have to, like, he did not even have to position his fist in a certain way in order to land, because, I mean, Omar was just like putting his head right in the position where it was an easy, quick, short left or a left or right for him to get. I mean, that right there, make it stop. I got to put hashtag make it stop on that. I can't believe you didn't even bring that up, because that was just like, what is he doing?
So, Shakur, who is your favorite fight?
Well, you know, I did kind of like that Fandora fight, because I was very impressed with his opposition, actually. I mean, but Fandora, you know, damn, he's such a big kid. It looks so awkward for me. I've told you guys that in the past. It just looks so weird to see him fighting at welterweight. You know, the kid is just as nice and sweet as he can be. Bless his heart. That's how we say in the South. Bless his heart. But it just looks so awkward. And I'll be glad when he get his ass up to a couple of more. I mean, at least 154, so people don't look like such munchkins trying to fight him at welterweight.
Well, they went at it at 154, so he's not as light as you think. But
he got the weight.
Yeah, he will. But my question is, can he win a title at super welter at 154? That I think is a question, because it's a good start for him. But I did want to say something about the Figueroa fight. Thank you. When I saw Figueroa fight Nihito Arakawa years ago, 16, 17, this is an amazing fighter. Obviously, I think he was at 135 or 140, but just an amazing kid, and strong, and planted extremely well to throw those punches in that style. Not the same style, though. What he's doing now is just weird. You know, that thing with the open hand and all, that doesn't work. Kind of Frazier-like, right? And you got it down, Lucas. And then, you know, Sakura, the one thing I see about Figueroa is that his feet are not planted when he's firing a shot. Sometimes they are, but he's just all over the place. And to me, it's like, man, you need to go back to the drawing board here, because what you're doing is, and man, I felt so bad for him when he walked over to his corner and started, you know, convulsing.
I really got,
that was bad.
Yeah.
I was really scared that something was seriously wrong with. I don't like to see no boxing.
It was
like growing up. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. It was.
Yeah, definitely. And it was but he was taking some serious body punishment, as well as you know, like I said, he was like bending his head right down into the natural, heavier power fist
Mm.
for Ramos.
Mm.
And so it was like quick short rights and quick short lefts and stuff, like so he made it an easier night for Ramos, but I do have to give Ramos credit because he looked amazing. I mean, he's improving with each fight, literally. He really is, with little subtle things. And, it's not just all about the power like it was when he was in there with Perella, just catching somebody at the last moment. Now we've had 2 fights since then, and you can see like a little progress in each fight. So I was okay with that. I thought it was pretty good. But
He's a talented fighter. Ramos is really talented. He's got his losses. His step up fights. He dropped those, but he's got a pretty decent record overall. And that's a tough welter.
And it was George Cota that was fighting for Gore that I was actually want to see in another fight because dang, he's got balls and steals. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
For Fandor at all.
Yeah, with the Figueroa fight, I mean, I partially disagree, James. I think early on, the weird blocking was actually helping. The only problem is it got found out. They got worked around, and then after that, he just started folding, and he was landing everything at will. But early on in the fight, the first few rounds there, he was actually significantly, better defensively.
Yeah, but the head movement is really excessive.
Yes. The part I definitely agree with was the never planting. I don't understand. He was switching constantly. That's never a good thing. I mean, if you can switch, okay, but not after every damn punch. Like, you're never in a good position if you're constantly switching. That's bad footwork.
Very repetitive too.
Yes, and it's gonna drain you. It is good. It is physically draining. You can't keep that up.
Damn.
Now, Lucas, I got a question for you though about that card.
Yeah.
What's up with your boy Granados? Adrian Granados had a draw on that card. I don't know if it was on the televised slot or not, but man, he went to war with that kid, and he still can't get the victory.
Judges love to hate Granados. I don't know what that's about. But I honestly didn't see the fight. I got in right at the Lara match and continued with the pay-per-view. So I actually missed out on the Granados fight. But he's no stranger to a bad decision. I mean, at this point, he doesn't let it get him down. And I'm sure we're going to have Granados on in the future. But, yeah, I mean, it's tough. It used to eat you up. I mean, it does. But, unfortunately, it's to the point now that boxing, it's almost second nature,
Well, what do you think? I mean,
it could be a style thing. It could be
a style thing that keeps getting him.
Like we talked about. I mean, he earlier just in the show, he does kind of eat some punches in order to land his own. Usually, he gives as good as he gets, though. So
understood, but y'all are assuming the fact that he got robbed. A lot of people see it as a draw. It was a war. You got to go back and see it. If you didn't, you got to go back and see it. It was a war. I saw it as a very close fight. I don't necessarily think Granados has an argument here in this one.
Well,
all right.
Sometimes they get it right with the draw. Sometimes it just really is a draw.
I just think he's playing it too close.
All right, Rob. Now it's time for you to defend yourself with this pick because you picked Areola, my friend. I want you to speak on the fight, and let's get into the thick of things here because I'm sure there's quite a bit to talk about.
So I picked Areola by knockout, right? He had a shot. He had a shot early on, and he did hurt Ruiz early on in the fight.
I'm not gonna lie, when he went down, I was like, "Oh man, Rob's gonna be giving it out so bad on the show."
Exactly, and that's what I was going for. Look, my hats off to Ruiz. Okay, he came back from that and he put together a hell of a game plan. I think a lot of that has a lot to do with his training now. A lot of it has a lot to do with his training. Let's face it, he was prepared for it. And that's what we hadn't seen from Ruiz before. We hadn't seen him go through all that punish. Well, you know what? Scratch that. He came back from a knockdown to Anthony Joshua and won the fight. You know, so we know he actually can do that, and he's proven that before, and he proved it again this time out. So I'll just say that the man is tough, and that's why he was the draw Saturday night. That's why he was a main event headliner on pay-per-view, and he did very well. And he did come back and win the fight after Areola put together what he was able to do, which people aren't giving him credit for. You need to give the man credit. Areola is a hell of a heavyweight. Always has been very durable in the ring. So he gave it his best, and Ruiz was the better fighter that night.
Now, I agree with you completely on one thing. I think Areola was very underrated. And actually, I'm going to go as far to say I feel like we've been robbed. The boxing community was robbed from Areola being this Areola, okay? Because I've never seen Areola this good. How many of you can honestly say you expected to see Areola outboxing Ruiz going into this fight?
Well, I thought he was going to do it early in the fight. I just thought he was going to be able to carry a knockout.
You thought he was going to be able to outslug him. That's not what I said. I said how many people are going to outbox his ass, and I don't think anybody here can honestly think that. Because that's really not even Areola's style. But the thing is it worked out well for him.
But guess what? It's going to get better if he continues to stay with Goosen. I mean, that was just his first outing with Goosen. But
it is.
He kind of fall back into that repetitive style with the two-step by the end, by the later rounds. He had gotten back. He reverted back. It's hard to break those habits. But I feel that if he has more time, then with the new training, I think that he can really do something. And he did look in the beginning rounds. He looked amazing. Mm-hmm. And it took until like the 6th or 7th round for Ruiz to kind of, I don't know what was going on there, but
I mean, you're right. I think the training was great in the beginning, but once it started going into the deep waters, he went more back to kind of like what he knows. So maybe a little bit more time with Goosen. It could have been different. He is getting up there. So he doesn't really have... That's what I was meaning. I feel like we've been robbed. Because I would love to see Areola begin again with Goosen. And I would love to see what he could have become. Let's also not skip over the fact that both of these guys came in some good-ass shape, okay? Both guys are known for the blubber and the bigness, right? I mean, they trimmed it down, and they put on a hell of a show. They earned that pay-per-view money.
You're right, and I now do believe that, it was worth that $49.99. I couldn't believe it. I said, wow, this is a pretty decent card. And it only got better as the night went on. And then Lara with that KO, first round KO, I'm like, wow, you looking pretty good at middleweight. Well, he's always looked pretty good. Let me take that back. He's pretty damn handsome. But he looked good as far as, maybe if a Lara at middleweight versus a Hurd at middleweight, we would have actually seen Hurd be able to really hurt Hurd. I mean, you just don't know. So it's an interesting point that he got some power apparently at middleweight.
Yeah. All right. I believe we got our guest trying to connect on now. So
I'm on. Hello.
But I did wear something in honor of Areola. Ta-da!
Right.
Costco $9.99, baby.
Lou, welcome to Tough Talk Tuesday. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.
Great. You're our first boxing judge, so we're definitely excited to have you on here. First off, I want to know, how did your quarantine go? A lot of people, didn't go so great. I want to know kind of how you spent your time off.
Well, we didn't work for maybe, I think, 5-6 months, but then we started working pretty regularly, being quarantined. The awful part was that we had to take the test the day before, quarantine in a hotel room, then work the next day without any kind of crowd, which totally changed the way we enjoy boxing. But this Saturday was the first time with crowd, and it was wonderful.
And what a crowd.
Yeah, good day.
And what a crowd, right?
Good.
It is Los Angeles.
It's good to have crowds back, that's for sure.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate the crowds way more. And fans, we appreciate other fans way more.
Right. Did you, Lou, miss the fans as much as the rest of us did?
Of course. I guess we learned to appreciate the intensity of the punches because there's nobody yelling. And that was a big difference of normal boxing match. But it's still not the same. It's the fans who really move the fighters more than us. Mm-hmm. We tune out the noise, but it's the fighters who need it.
Gotcha. So, with that being said, then, so was the shots, when you could hear them so much more thudding and landing and echoing, did that make it a little easier to score?
Well, it gives you another dimension. You're still looking for the basics, the effective aggressiveness, the harder punchers, the good defense, the ring generalship, all those stuff. But when you could hear that it doesn't hit like on a body shot, that it doesn't hit the pad and hits the body, it has a different sound. Mm-hmm. It's much easier to pick up when there's no crowd. So sometimes you would maybe give a point for body shots when it probably, could have hit the pad. So it just, with no crowd, you really hear the intensity of the shot.
Okay. So you mentioned like body shots, for an example, but I was more wondering for like a common fan, because we know, they like to put their opinion out there on how certain fights went. Other than like angles, what would you say to a common fan that saw something differently than maybe a different judge?
Well, first of all, it's not easy to judge a fight on TV. You got to start with that. What you see on TV is not what is maybe happening in person. So you got to discount some of that. I think the fan it really has to do that they don't do is don't have a preconceived winner in your mind, or don't have somebody that you want to win, because that's what clouds the judgment. And I think that's what commentators do, by the way. They're sitting way far away from ringside in most cases. They are looking at a monitor. They have already done all their pre-fight analysis. They already have figured out who the odds makers have decided is going to win. And they've already figured out who the promoter fighters are. And so they have a lot of preconceived thoughts that we don't as judges. So I think fans got to look at it a whole lot more without their biases in there. Because what fans do is say, I want him to win. Mm-hmm. And so you tend to like everything he does and discard what the other guy does. And that's not what they should be doing.
Definitely agree with you there. And the commentary can kind of lead you down a certain road too if you're, judging off of a televised fight. So.
But that's televised fights nowadays. I mean, the commentary is geared towards one fighter. For sure. They have kind of their man, whether it's Showtime or, whoever it is.
Right,
they have their man, and exactly, and that's kind of who they announce for, right?
Yep.
All right, James.
Well,
Yeah, take it over.
Yeah, Lou, thanks for coming on. And I can't see you. You may have your video off, but if you want to
Can you
check
see
that,
me?
and
How do
no,
I?
but there's a video with a little red line through it. You can just tap on that.
There you go.
There he is.
Hey.
Oh, wait, let me
Let's
get
try-
back on. I hit the wrong button.
Let's try it again.
I'm here somewhere. Hold on a second. Where would it be?
It says video, stop video. I'll try mine right quick. So start video, stop video.
Well, somehow I hit something where I got off. I can hear you, but
Sure.
I can't see you. So I'm looking for what do I hit?
Because we saw you for a split second. So whatever button that was, you clicked on down at the bottom of your screen with like a little camera, and then it's got like a red line. If you click it, then the red line will come off of it. Then you're like your camera's working.
There he
There
is.
we go.
How's that?
Yeah.
How's that?
Don't-
There we go.
Now let me
Don't-
get my face in there correctly. All right.
Yeah, you're good.
See, he knows how to follow
All right.
instructions.
Thank you.
I've never seen you wear those glasses. Very nice. I like
Other
that.
reading glasses.
Yeah. Well, what was your activity like during the summer? I mean, I watched a lot of fights during the whole pandemic and moving through the entire year. Were you very active?
Yes, that this last year I worked almost all the big fights we had in California,
Sure.
and we had a number of them in Microsoft and the
Right.
Shrine Auditorium.
Sure.
So at the end of the year, we were working pretty regularly,
Mhm.
but we were all in a bubble.
Sure.
This year, since most of us have been vaccinated, the bubble still exists, but now we show up the day of the event and take the
Uh-huh.
quick test.
Okay.
So now we're very much back to normal, according to the Athletic Commission. So there's going to be a lot of fights coming up.
And now
Yeah.
your first time in the bubble, I mean, was it pretty creepy?
Well, it's not, it's not the creepiness, it's the isolation.
Sure.
You walk in, you get tested, you pass the test, you go up to the hotel room, they give you your keys, and then you're isolated. You can't leave your room. They bring you food that is not very good. So the first time you eat their food, the next time you bring your own food.
Yeah. You order
But you're
Mexican.
isolated. It's not fun until you get called at 5 a.m. or texted that you're okay, and now you could go down for breakfast and you could talk to people.
Sure. Well, go ahead, Sakura.
I thought the boxers was making a big deal out of the food situation, but here we have Lou confirming that, yeah, it was pretty much not good.
No, there was no fun. But
You just gotta-
but
yeah.
what we did do, what you all should understand that what California did, and Andy Foster, our executive officer, is he started having weekly Zoom calls like what we're doing, going over scoring and refereeing, and inviting officials all over the United States. And so we kept up our training, and it was a great help. And then, because we scored and we saw how everybody else saw that same round. So we did a lot of training. Why don't you
Well,
know that?
You have over 1,000 fights. Is that correct? That you refed in your time?
Yeah.
What was your
Long
most
time.
memorable? One of your most memorable? Can you tell us
so
about
many.
it?
Yeah,
I bet.
My
It's a
my
1-hour
most
show.
memorable- My most memorable for a lot of reasons, including it was the birth of my first grandchild, was De La Hoya Mosley, number one.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah,
at
it's electric
Staples Center. It was the first fight at Staples Center. It was jam-packed, sold out, over 20,000 fans. The crowd was just into it. And it was a great fight that went the distance. And it was a split decision.
Mm-hmm.
So De La Hoya Mosley, and that was the evening that my first grandchild was born. So that was very special.
I bet.
Wow, I know you didn't sleep a wink that night with all that excitement.
Well, the roar of what 20,000 people could do at a boxing match, then the noise they generate is unbelievable.
And so, how many?
Let me ask you guys
Yeah.
a question. Did you
Sure.
did you see the Ruiz Areola fight?
Yeah.
I did.
How did you guys score it?
I can pull mine up, actually.
I got my judge pad right here.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I scored Andy Ruiz Areola. Ready? 118-109.
Well, then he would have cursed you out too. Did you see his press conference?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did, and you know, there's something that he doesn't understand.
I got.
Well, I know, but
I got
It's points driven.
look at
It's
the only
boxing.
round. The only round in question. Okay. Only round in question was round number 3. That's
You
the
can't
only
see my
round.
hand. Round
Yes.
number 3.
Yes.
That was my guess.
That's
Three.
the only round in question. Pat Russell and I gave it to Ruiz because he did more and he ended strong.
He
Okay.
did.
And Zach Young gave it to Areola. That's the
Sure.
only difference.
Sure.
Okay. So when he criticizes that he won more than 1 or 2 rounds, he's wrong. But guess what? None of the press called him out. None of the press said anything to him saying, well, yeah, I understand your opinion, but you're wrong. And
Sure.
they let him, we're the only sport guys, by the way, all right? And this is my pet peeve after being in this almost going on 39 years, is that no other professional sport would allow commentators or participants to rag on the officiating, period.
Sure.
Yet in boxing, we're all fair game.
Yeah.
So I
If
asked
you do that,
So I asked you this question, how do you score it? Because any reasonable person would not have given Areola more than 2 rounds, period. Yeah.
I agree. Agree.
Everybody in that press conference, not one spoke up and says you're wrong. Okay? And so the big lie goes on, and he is going to go and slam us some more because
Sure.
he has a pulpit. It's wrong.
Well, yeah, it's not you don't get any participation points here. You either win the round or you lose it. Maybe it's an even round, but there's no participation points here. You don't get anything for free in boxing. And he, I could say that he was in the best shape of his life. He had a good second round. He had a decent first round, third round, whatever. That's about all I can give you, Chris. And love you, but you got outscored big time bad.
Yeah.
That's why I gave him that 3rd round. I felt
I
that
did too.
was a pretty close round. And because he had already had the momentum in the other 2 rounds, and Ruiz really, he did pour it on at the end of that round. And sometimes you can steal around that way. So he did
Sure.
what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, no. Ruiz came back, and I gave Ruiz the round number 3. So,
But I got to take it back now because Louis said that didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't score that.
I have the same. And ours is posted, but yeah, I had 117, 110. I gave him 2 and 3, and that was it. And when he popped off and said that, I was like, man, he'd be cussing me out too.
well, it's interesting, Lou, that you say that people can attack the judges and commentators and so forth. You do that in the NFL, NBA, they will fine you and they will take a chunk of your money.
The announcers and all that, absolutely. And that's but we're the only sport that does that, and everybody really is wondering what we could do, but I don't think anything is ever going to change. So we all have thick skins. We have to live by whatever we saw and believed, and we won't be used if we're wrong. many times. So it's, we have a high risk occupational uh, environment.
Yeah.
It's Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the boxing world, though. Yeah, I mean, no, it's
Right.
Lou, would you be opposed to? Because like I said, we've talked about this several times on our show about judging and how not everybody agrees. Would you be opposed to maybe like a judge change, say to on each scorecard after you score, why you favored that person, something really short, whether it be
Well,
power,
yeah. New York
punches,
has that, by the way. I've
do.
worked in New York, and New York has that. After each round, you got to do two things. You got to mark your card, 10-9 or whatever you saw, and then on the back of it, you write down why in 2 or 3 words.
Gotcha.
Stronger punches, body shots, ring generalship, more aggressive, whatever you use to give that point. So New York does that, right? And I don't think any judge would be opposed to that.
Okay. That's just something that the public doesn't see much. They just get a score, so then they're like, blowing it up with no context whatsoever. So,
well, remember the WBC tried to do something innovative when they said after every 4 rounds we're going to say who's ahead.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And both camps had to agree on it, and it went over like a lead balloon. Because if somebody is winning, after 8 rounds, on all 3 scorecards, what does that tell? Nobody wanted it. So, we got to be. What I wouldn't mind either, rotating every so many rounds. If it's a 6-rounder, every 2 rounds, rotate so you get a different view of the fight rather than have the same view.
I like that.
Because a lot of times you're blocked, and if there's a lot of noise, a judge listens as much as sees, and a judge looks at body language a lot more than fans. So, and tactics. So one fighter A starts off with being aggressive and finds that that's not working, and then starts counterpunching. Fans don't notice that. Judges do. And so you look for those nuances that to add to the toolbox.
Yeah. I think a lot of the common fans also haven't been to a fight even live, let alone ringside. And if you watch, we do have some exclusive fights on our site as well on Heavy Bag Boxing here. If you just go and watch some of those, we only have really one camera angle. And if you're trying to score a fight, I mean, there's times where you can't see anything. The ref is directly in your way. So, I mean, that literally is a judge's perspective. Sometimes you have no view. And you will miss out on shots being landed.
That's true.
That's why there's 3 judges, right?
Yeah, well, it used to be in California when I started as a referee. We're the only state that you're both a referee and a judge, even to this day, even though mainly referees are working as referees and judges are working as judge, but we still are licensed as both until you retire as a referee. In any case, it used to be when I started, the referee scored the rounds, and that was difficult. You're refereeing, and you're trying to dictate the action, and yet at the same time trying to score. So eventually they changed that.
Yeah. You didn't like doing that, I assume.
No, I didn't mind it, but you're never as on as a judge doing it all the time. I remember one of the big fights I did. God, it must have been around 84, 85 in there, but I think 84. It was a nationally televised CBS fight, Tony the Tiger Baltasar and Roger Mayweather. And I had a score, and it was a tough fight. So I not only had to worry about anybody getting hurt or whatever, I then had a score. And it's really hard. You can't serve two masters by concentrating, you know?
Very true.
So that's a good thing that has changed.
I remember Tony the Tiger. I used to see him in the gym.
Yeah. It was a great fight. He beat Roger Mayweather. But and you know what? Roger then turned out to be, you know what his nickname became in the next few years?
Roger Mayweather?
Yeah.
Black Mamba.
No, but his nickname was in LA.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know that.
The Mexican Assassin.
Oh.
Because he beat every Mexican he met. He had a string of victories over all these Mexican fighters that were world-class fighters. So he became the Mexican Assassin. Hell of a fighter.
Oh, amazing.
Well, they called Manny Pacquiao the Mexicutioner.
There you go. That's an offshoot.
I don't know. Well, you know, with nicknames, there's always an essence of truth there. So, yeah.
Tony the Tiger, that was one of my questions, because I see that you were one of the judges on Tony Harrison's fight with Brian Perella from here in Florida. And also, there was this draw with Anthony Durrell, his last fight. So, when it comes to draws, I mean, is there anything when you get to these to the scores, if it equals up to it's a draw, then that's what you put down, period? Or is it a situation where these two rounds could have been swing rounds, and now who would I rather be in the fight? Is there any situations like that that's occurred for you?
Well, the only way you could eliminate draws, because pretty much across the board, 10-10 rounds are eliminated. Hardly anybody scores an even round anymore, okay? So the only way to eliminate draws is make them odd number fights. Because in an even number rounds, you're going to have 6-6. 10 rounds, 5-5. But if you have 9, 11, 13, then you won't have a draw. And
wasn't an issue.
Quirk of nature, there's a knockdown and then a point deduction and stuff like that. But all things being equal, you eliminate the draw.
Should they be fighting 13 rounds?
Well, I'm saying to eliminate the draw ever occurring.
Right.
You have to have odd number rounds.
We went from 13. We went from 15 to 12.
Or the other thing you could do, up to 10 rounds, okay, is that don't take off the gloves. The commission right away could say it's a draw because they have the scores right there. And so you fight another round.
Well, that's not uncommon in other sports.
I would like
I'm not advocating them. What I'm saying to you, those are possible solutions to get rid of a draw.
Well, I like the option.
That happens.
You got eliminated to the death.
And in other martial arts, that's a alternative there. They do have the follow-up round if you have a tie. I believe some of the kickboxing leagues have that in Europe for sure. So I think that's a good way to go.
Well, I think the main reason I was asking that question is because if all the rounds on your scorecard are a certain way, and then it's the last round, and that this is looking like a straight draw, and you got this last round. Is there? I'm saying and if say it's a swing round, you don't really see more punches for one or the other, or more power in one or the other. How you gonna judge that?
Well, you use the criteria. I mean, where Chris Arreola is right is each round is in the eye of the beholder. But each round is a fight within itself. So you don't care as a judge what happened in round 2. You care what is going to happen and is happening and happen in round 3 and then round 4. So a judge doesn't look at past nor forward. He looks at what's occurring. And so uh, judges have their own. I have been to so many judges seminars, and you could put up an obvious round for people to score, and you never get 100% of the participants saying that fighter A won that round, because they see what they want to see. And you're never going to have the perfect judging or judge. So what you hope for is consistency. And I think what California officials are very consistent in that they don't care who wins. They don't care if it's an out-of-towner. They don't care if it's a hometown hero. They don't care if it's the red corner, which is the non-promoter's corner, or blue, whatever it is. They don't care. They're going to judge it and live by it. And I think we have a lot of fair decisions.
Yeah, for sure. My only other question to you is that, well, it's more about the fans than anything else. Like, since we don't get to go to judging seminars and all this kind of stuff, the average fan doesn't. What is one thing that you wish the average fan knew about scoring a round or scoring?
Well, I said it a little while ago. I said, don't put your emotions into it. That one thing that I used to officiate a lot of football and baseball before I got into boxing. And the one quality that all officiators have in any sport, okay, they all go up through the same ranks. You start in the case of boxing, you start in amateur with the little guys. You then keep learning your skills and you move up. And if you're lucky enough, and not everybody gets to be a professional, but in all sports, they all have to go through all of this training. And the one quality you have to have is good judgment. And the second quality you have to have is a thick skin, because you're going to get booed, you're going to get yelled at, you're going to get cussed at, you're going to get thrown beer at you, you're going to get, so every official I know has to have a thick skin. You can't let all of that. So fans don't have that. Fans are rabid about a fighter. They love that fighter, okay? And they see things that didn't happen, okay?
Partiality is what you would hope fans have when they come to watch.
Yeah.
Impartiality. I mean, I try to start out impartial. I swear I do. As soon as I see some power or somebody go down, I'm just like, I think he should win. And then later in the fight, we might see that he just doesn't have the skill level that of that person that had to knock down earlier in the fight. It's this thing that we have as emotions and human, just human nature for us.
Which is good. See, I'm not complaining about it. I was not trying to answer your question of what the fans should do, and they got to step back and say, okay, my guy's taking a beating, and not say, oh, he's got a puncher's chance. Oh, he can come back. No, most times you can't. Mm-hmm. And that's why I was saying earlier that as a referee more than as a judge, you watch the shift in strategy, right, and the body language, and what they're not doing, not what they're doing. Their punches aren't solid. They're not leveraged. They are slower. They're protecting themselves more. Well, judges see all that too. Fans don't.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting point. I think I'm gonna try to incorporate that when I'm watching a fight. What are they not actually doing that they should be doing?
And if we go back to Chris Arreola, he wasn't throwing any punches, or very few, because he didn't want to get knocked out, or he was cautious on his stamina, or he was afraid he'd drop his left hand, or whatever. So he kept his hands high. You got to throw punches. And then you got to connect. And if you look at that fight again, he threw less punches and didn't connect.
That's fair.
And that's the thing is, we were talking about how we felt that he had reverted back to his old style by the end of the fight. We started seeing more of the old Areola than the new that we had seen some glimmers of in the beginning rounds. But I like him. I mean, but I can't favor him no more because I need impartiality. Right?
That's right. Well, if you want to be, no, look, listen, as commentators or as fans or as bloggers, you could take whatever position you want because that's your viewpoint. I'm talking in terms of, I've done this 38 years and every fight I work could be my last if I'm not consistent or I can't answer why I did this versus that.
Oh yeah, like we were talking about the other week. Like you could have a spotless record and everything is well for many, many years, and one bad decision, and from that point on, they're gonna talk junk.
Yeah.
So
True.
Definitely appreciate you and what you guys do as judges.
Lou, I wanted to ask you right quick, is there a particular division that you think is easier to judge? I have a feeling that it's heavyweight, but what do you think?
Well, the less punches thrown are the easiest ones to judge because you then are really looking at how many landed or didn't.
Sure.
But when you get into the 130 pounders where they're both throwing leather, boy, those are harder ones. But you learn to concentrate but every judge has their own style, on what they are looking for. But definitely the bigger they are, the less punches are thrown. Therefore, you have a better chance of getting the same result.
All right.
I feel like, and a lot of times, I really feel like, well, I've been at boxing parties and things like that too, but I feel like a lot of times fans don't really know that each round is like scored different. Like each round is scored totally separate from the next round.
Each round is a fight. Each round is a fight in itself. And you know what we as judges really have to fight against? Really. And it's the first thing when we arrive and we're given the fights we're going to do, and you look at that bout sheet, and forget the championship fight or the main event, but you look at that bout sheet and you already know who the promoter fighters are. It's either the red corner or the blue corner. And you have to fight against expecting that they're always going to win. Because that's what the promoter wants.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what the promoter is trying to match somebody that with less skills. Okay. But we as judges, even though we know that going in, when we see it, we then have to make sure we concentrate enough and give each fighter their due.
Yeah.
And that's what the fans don't know either.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, like I said, 1982, and the Olympic Auditorium, and Jimmy Lennon Sr. as the announcer, Jimmy Lennon Sr. would get into the ring, and then the first fighter who entered the ring, he had a disc, like a 6-inch disc with white and black. And as the fighter entered the ring, he would flip the disc. And if it landed on white, he'd send him to the white corner. And I asked, why are they doing that? Why are they the disc? I never had seen that. And the answer was, Eileen Eaton told me, for the bettors. The bettors out in the crowd, and there's a lot of people that bet on the fight, they would bet by corner to make it fair, and you wouldn't know who's going to get it. So if there was 7 fights that night, and you look at your partner or your friend or a stranger and you said, want to bet $10 a fight and I'll take the white, at least you knew it isn't like today where the promoters fighters are in one corner and the challengers on the other. So that was the old days, but it was for betting purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we ought to do that.
Yeah,
maybe we have to go back to that.
Well, Lou, we got one more question for you. I don't really want to hold you up any longer.
Okay.
But I got to know, because you're, ref and a judge. I asked Tony Weeks kind of the same question. I just wanted to get your response from it. But do you think holding is something that's really not a deducted point, enough? A lot of people get away with it a lot, talking about like Hopkins and Klitschko. Fights that had a lot of clinching and a lot of holding with really no purpose behind it. Do you think it's not deducted enough and not looked at enough?
Yeah, that not when I was a young official, but in my older years. And I just told a referee this thing, and I'll answer your point. In my pre-fights, in the last 4 or 5 years that I was a referee, I would make it a point to just talk about things that will get them in trouble. And one in particular, I would say, is clinching is a tactic. Excessive holding is a foul. How do I know which one you are doing? And of course they would know. And I would say, if I say break, you don't let them go, now you're holding. It's no longer a clinch. And so I think that if referees would use that tactic and say to the fighters, I understand a tactic. I understand that you might get stunned and grab. But as soon as I say break, if you don't follow that rule, I'm going to enforce it eventually. I might give you 2 warnings. But by the third, it's a point, and you know what? Good luck. So I think that's what's missing, okay, is that they're letting them do the clinching that becomes excessive holding because they haven't warned them. And then how many times do you warn them? So I in the last 4 or 5 years that I refereed, I never had that problem, because I told them what I was going to do, and then they understood. See, and I think that's what's lacking.
Great, thank you so
and
much.
I'll bet you Tony Week has never told them that.
Yeah, he answered somewhat similar, but not the same.
No, because that's you got. If you're a referee, you got to think what's good for boxing. What is the right thing to do? And so if a fight is boring because of the holding, then you have to do something. But if you haven't warned them in the dressing room, it's almost impossible to hold them to it in the ring. Okay. Almost impossible. You gotta win it in the dressing room. Otherwise, it really becomes hard.
That's fair. All right. Javi, I know you jumped on there. Did you have one question? I know we've taken up quite a bit of loose time.
Yeah. How you doing, Mr. Lewis? I just have one question. I know I'm jumping in a little late. You've been in the game for some time. I was wondering, I know there was a time where the referee will also have a card back then. We took that away. Do you feel like that will have some type of benefit nowadays when the referee used to judge and have their own score?
I don't know of one referee in the world that would want to referee and judge at the same time. I don't know of one. I think it was a great thing that we in California did, because guess what? There nobody else did that. We were the only one. In England, there's only one. There's no judges. In England, you're the referee. If you've ever seen a fight from England, preliminaries, not world championship. Yeah, the referee goes to his corner, he signs whatever it is, and at the end of the fight, they don't even go to the announcer. he goes to the corner and raises the guy's arm.
Right.
So he's the sole arbiter and judge in England, see? So, no, I think the referee has a tough enough job. There's, I always remember this about a referee. It may look like you're walking around enjoying a walk in the park, but when something happens, and there's always something that's going to happen, you have that amount of time, 1/100th of a second, to decide what it was. And you have to make a snap decision and live with it. And, sometimes you make the right one and sometimes you don't, especially on how long do you let the fight go on. So it's not easy being a referee. It looks easy, but that's why there's so few really world class.
What do you think about these points when the referee has to take a point from a boxer, but you really didn't see or they didn't get the warning? I mean, is that something that you think they could?
Well, that the hardest thing to do for any referee is take points. Because that's like a knockdown now if you lose the round. You see, if it's a 10-9 against you and a point is taken, that's like a knockdown. That means you got to make it up in 2 rounds. Mm-hmm. So referees are reluctant, so they look for the flagrant. But it goes back again to your pre-fight. And then how you warn. There's a soft warning where you lean in, keep them up. There's a harder warning where you use your hand movement, keep them up. And then there's the harder one where you step in between and say, keep them up. Now, when you do that, okay, how many more times are you going to allow it? Right. Where before the fan says, come on. Okay, or before you enforce it. See, so it's almost like digging your own grave. You got to figure out, are you going to be able to change the style? Are those borderline blows really hindering the other fighter? Can you ignore them until there's a flagrant one where he goes down on one knee or churns around and winces? There's a lot of judgment. That's why I said judgment is really the key. And so taking a point is awful hard. I bet you in my 37 years of refereeing, I'll bet I didn't take more than 20 points in my career.
Oh, wow.
I was really, really, unless it was flagrant. And it turned out in one big fight, it was the difference from winning or losing. And I didn't get criticized by the press, but it was James Toney against Quendo or something like that. And he flagrantly, in my mind, hit Toney behind the head. And I took away a point, and that was the difference in the fight. So, it's, and I never did it much, but it's
funny.
The referee lives and dies by the sword.
Yeah,
because that's the only one.
Like, we saw that
point one that I'm like, refs shouldn't have any tolerance for is behind the head. So everybody should be 100% behind you with that.
Okay, but here, all right, now let's take the rabbit punch. All right, a rabbit punch occurs more than not when they're clinched and the guy hits. They're trying to hit him on the jaw, hits him behind the head. More times than not. Those aren't hard punches. Where the hard punches occur most of the time is when a fighter style is east-west. Their punches come east and west versus north and south. Mm-hmm. So that the chances of missing the jaw and hitting behind the head increases. Mm-hmm. But what the referee has to look for is, did the fighter move their head?
Right. Did they move
causing the rabbit punch? Now that's a very fine line. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so that's the split decision you have to make that I've said. But there's ways to make sure that doesn't happen when you see the styles.
But something we saw this weekend, Lou, was there was a point deducted from Javier Molina this weekend. He was on the show recently. We had a chance to talk to him, but I just thought that the referee really jumped the gun when he took the point because it didn't look intentional. He was kind of like I don't know how you would say this, kind of like a no-look punch in a sense where he let one go, but he was covering up as well. And I think he hit a head that was turned.
Yeah.
And so he lost the point there. And in the end, it didn't really matter overall in the grand scheme of things, but it could. It certainly could.
Yeah. Now, I don't know why he did it. The commission thought it was a good point, when we have our meeting afterwards. But
Sure.
Sometimes you also do it for effect. As I'll give you an example. I worked as a referee on Canelo's first championship fight.
Mhm.
When he fought Matthew Hack. And it was a big fight. And Canelo, this was only a second fight in the United States, I believe. He really wanted to impress his fans. He really wanted to knock out.
Mhm.
And he couldn't knock him out. He beat him all around the ring, but never really hurt him. And he hit on the break early. And then the second time he hit on the break, I took a point. Now, the crowd went wild and booed and all that stuff. But I went into his dressing room afterwards and I explained to him in Spanish, I took away a point because you were winning every round and you were frustrated and you're a champion and you're better than that. And guess what? He never did that again in his career. So sometimes it's for a point, to make a point.
Okay.
Right. That's a good story.
Yeah.
That's a true story.
That's
That's
amazing.
interesting. That really is. Well, you brought up the Olympic Auditorium in your visit here, and I really appreciate that because as a kid, that was my Disneyland.
Yeah.
For roller derby and lucha libre and boxing and a few other things. It was
fun working.
Lovely
It was
place.
fun working there.
I have a dream that will someday be a boxing mecca again.
Well,
It's just a dream.
It's a church right now. So.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I'm hoping that they can somehow reclaim it and give it the status that it deserves.
Yeah, well, but remember, I think that StubHub, or now Dignity Health, is the best venue for boxing in the world. It is a cone. It has great angles. It
Sure.
has great. It's wonderful to work there.
Well, I really like the indoor fights more than the outdoor. I actually like the Forum a lot more than StubHub, but StubHub is a little bit smaller. Well, actually, a lot smaller.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
proud of
8,000.
Well, it's been.
Which is
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I'm good.
Okay. I was just going to say, it's been great having you on, Lou. I don't want to keep you any longer than what we have to here. I just want to tell you it's been great having you on. We had a fan comment. Steve said this is a very insightful and informative discussion. Excellent guest. So I can't agree more. I think this is also one of my favorite that we've ever done. And, we've interviewed all kinds of people. And I think this has been by far the most informative. And I thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you, and invite me back. I'll be happy to do it.
Oh yeah.
Love to have you back.
Yes.
And I'm coming a little earlier because I
Yeah.
need to ask another question. He has so many stories that are so caught up. I think we need a whole episode just for him.
Yeah, we need a little, at least like 3 or 4 more episodes at least, just to iron out some more questions. But
Part 1.
yeah, definitely great,
Okay,
and
guys, it
I
was
hope
a
you enjoy the
pleasure.
rest of your night.
Thank you, Lou.
Pleasure.
All
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hi.
Man, he has some stories. for
Man.
days.
Oh, adorable.
Can you imagine you spending a boxing weekend with this man? Having some drinks with this man.
I like the way he's very explanation. He gives really good explanations on all his answers, so that you can learn and be more informed.
Yeah, I mean that was great. I'm so glad he came on the show. Answered a lot of questions for me too. I know I asked Tony a similar question, last week, and I would say it's more ironed out now for me in my head. So,
yes, you know what? It's crazy because we be following the sport for so much, right? And we seen it as as the team, as a fan, as sometimes part of the team of somebody that's fighting. But when you get the insights from these judges or people that have been doing this for years and years, it's like, wow, it really opened up your eyes to really understand, like, there's more to it than meets the eyes. You know what I'm saying? But Lucas, I got a question for you, man.
Yeah, go ahead, bud.
The ring behind you, what size is it? Is it 20 feet or?
This is not Canelo-Saunders approved, okay? And
what is going on with that?
We're about to get into that. We kind of talked enough about Ruiz and Arreola, I believe. Arreola fought well, and I don't think the score really reflected that. But, overall, he didn't really have a leg to stand on when it came down to complaining about the judging. I scored it about the same. So he's got to come at most of us, as we just discussed with Lou. So we're part of the problem, too. So let's go ahead and talk about Canelo-Saunders. Is this even a thing, or are they just, creating some buzz to basically distract from there's really not much of a buzz going into this fight? I mean, the boxing community is not all up in roar about Canelo.
Yeah. I think that they're looking for every possible advantage, and ring size is going to have a big benefit if it's smaller for Canelo. A bigger ring, obviously, for a guy who moves like Saunders, favors him. It doesn't really favor him in a sense, but
so is he wanting a bigger or smaller? Because Ring TV just posted something not very long ago that says he wanted a smaller ring, not a bigger one.
I hear that they're looking for the 24-footer, and they were presented with a 20-foot, so 20 by 20. And that's not to their advantage, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a little bit of confusion then in the media.
Well, Canelo wants to fight in a phone booth.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, wow, you really need the extra 4 feet? Like, that's what I'm telling y'all from the other week. His team and people be making him look real bad for no reason. He doesn't need an extra 4. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't need to have that smaller ring necessarily. I mean, yeah, it makes it a little bit less advantageable for Canelo, but not in a way that would stop him from being able to knock out BJ Saunders if he wants to, or get him in a corner or whatever. I mean, he's going to be the bigger guy in there regardless. So it's things like that. I'm like, I don't understand why his team would do that. If you made an agreement with this man and his team, BJ Saunders, for a 24-foot ring, then why, when somebody get there, it's got to be all this energy and everything spent on what you said you were going to do. Like, it just,
another question for Lou, and I would love to get his, response on it is, should there be a standard ring? You don't get to negotiate certain things. That's what I don't understand. I don't think it should be negotiable. There should be a state set, because, I mean, the state, right now, there's not federally rules, there's no united rules. So at least stateside, they should be able to say, this is your standard ring, that's all you get. Problem is, I think there's so many rings out there now and rental companies that go out and set these little house shows up that how are you going to get them all to conform? And they'd be a little mad because, now you have a ring and I got to sell that to a different state. I mean, I see the problem, don't get me wrong, but boxing needs a solution, okay? And this should not be negotiable. Number one, because it does have an impact on the winner. It does. Whether we want to admit to or not, Sakura, I mean, game plans have to change depending on the ring size. Am I right?
Not for somebody like Canelo. If you're the face of boxing and you're this undisputed champion and you got all these and you're supposed to be so talented, 4 feet? Really? 4 feet?
I disagree. Okay, look, you got a guy who's known for knockouts. You got a guy who knows for power, right? A lot of people like to say Golovkin is flat-footed. I don't think so. I think he cuts off the ring pretty well, but that's just me. But you put him in with somebody like a Lara or somebody whose foot movement is impeccable, you are going to have a severely different fight if you give them, like a 15-foot ring versus a 24-foot ring. I mean, there's going to be a severely different outcome.
Right, but the difference here was 20 versus 24. I mean,
That's a big difference. I think that's a significant difference.
It's
I
enough.
just don't think for Canelo, maybe for somebody that really is like not a dominant or aggressive boxer in that way, maybe so. But like this is
Sure.
just
But the question is,
every advantage when there's not really a big, huge advantage for Canelo to receive in this one. To me,
I don't know.
well,
I think to a
I
fighter
the
that
question,
moves a lot, it's a huge advantage.
yeah, well, BJ does move a lot, but he's gonna be moving a lot. If it was 20, he's gonna be moving a lot. If it was 10, he's still gonna be trying to move around. Like you just got you gonna get up to that ring a little faster, true, but it's like it's not gonna stop BJ Saunders. What they think he's gonna be like? Oh, I'm not gonna move around now. That's not gonna be his tactic, regardless. His strategy is still gonna be I gotta do what I gotta do. So, like, I mean, in that respect, I'm saying, like, why do you need these advantages when it's just, it's a big nothing burger for me. I mean, I just feel on principle, because BJ and because the teams had this arrangement and I guess this was a contract point. If they had that arrangement, I feel strongly that it should be adhered to. That's not what I'm saying when I say a nothing burger. But what I'm saying is, like, is this really for Canelo's team? That's, such a sticking point that you need this 20-foot versus a 24-foot. I don't feel like it costs so much, it's so much like negative publicity out there now about, well, BJ is catching hell too with it. But, like, I mean, it puts a negative light on the whole fight because of the damn ring. We're talking about the ring, and we're not talking about the matchup, and how good of a fight this would be.
Oh, okay. Sakura, let me ask you to you like this. That first Maidana fight with Floyd, you cut off another 4 feet out of that ring. You don't think Maidana might end up itching that one out?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to disagree with you, okay? I just disagree. That's all. I think it impacts the fight severely. But let's ask around because I want to see if anybody else agrees with you. I think me, James, Javi, I think we're all on the side that the ring size matters. Sakura's not quite buying it. Rob, give me your take, buddy. You're the only quiet one.
Absolutely, it matters for Canelo because let's face it, he's already said after the Lara fight, he does not like fighting guys that move. He doesn't like that style. It's not fan friendly. It doesn't help him out in any of his fights. Absolutely, he doesn't want to cut the ring, make the ring longer for it to be, let's just say, not even the potential to give the advantage of Billy Joe Saunders. It's not going to be pleasing to his fans. He wants to be in there to show a dominant performance, a knockout type performance that he knows he can do against BJ Saunders. That being said, Canelo wasn't worried about it because he showed up for the press conference today. And he showed up and dismissed any issue with the ring and said the fight's going to happen no matter what. Why? Because like Floyd Mayweather himself did for many years and was successful at it, he's the A side and it's his show. So my issue and take on it is BJ Saunders really willing to stake his reputation on a cancellation, which will now be a 5th canceled title fight. 5th canceled title fight. He's not going to be able to survive that.
You know what, though? He can put it right now and say, hey, I'll cancel. Because it doesn't just hurt him. It hurt Canelo, too. It's hurting the promoters. It's hurting everybody. He does have some ground to stand on there. I wish I could share right now because I was actually trying to go into BoxRec. BoxRec is apparently down or they didn't pay their bill. I'm not sure which.
It is down.
Yeah, it's been down for a few days, I think. But back to this Canelo thing, right? I'm surprised that all of us guys agree on that the ring size matter, and Sakura, he being a woman, is not saying that size don't matter. It does.
Oh man.
Face
what
palm.
you do with it? I'm glad you're the only one that figured it out. Yes, on size, we feel what you do with it. So,
what I'm saying is,
she says size don't matter. It's what you do in the ring.
Man. Super fans for Canelo. Y'all say he all that in the bag of chips and all this. He's the bigger man in there. Damn it! If 4 feet of ring is gonna stop you from being in your greatness, then what are we saying here?
Yes.
Make it make sense.
Yes.
It's not making sense for me.
Yep. And that's where my point, where like, you know, you guys as a former Canelo hater, which I'm no longer am, this is exactly why, like, I know many out there probably feel the same, but this is exactly why it took me a long time to kind of warm up to Canelo, because this is something that he does all the time, and he uses all the advantages. You know, he has made I want to say he has made a name out of using all his A-side advantages, but he does get caught up in these silly games where at the end of the day, it's like it's not helping you, because there are people out there that want to believe in you, and they see the potential, they see that you're getting improving and all of that, and then you do some petty shit like this, where it's like, damn, man, right when I'm starting to like you, you go and you do this shit. Now, 4 feet in the ring, and that's a fact.
That right there, what you just said, right there.
And you know what? But I think the 4 feet is beyond the size, beyond the fact that he knows that, you know, Saunders is gonna move, especially if the Saunders that for Lemieux is gonna show up tomorrow. He knows he's gonna have a problem with that, and he doesn't like that. Plus, it's a southpaw. But I think it's beyond that. I think it's also, it has to do a lot with the mental. You know, just distracting him from the game plan, distracting him from the matter at hand, and not trying to play these mind games where it's like, well, you know, it's not just about the ring and the size and the glove size and the glove colors. It's about me controlling this, and I make you dance according to my own tune, just to let you know.
And that's what sucks.
Yeah, and you know what? If a fighter is not mentally strong, it could get affected by it. And God knows, hopefully this don't become an excuse after the fight. Like, well, you know, I got the L or because of this, or he had the W because of this. Hopefully it doesn't become a factor, because it could be a factor, and it is. It does affect the fight.
I mean, it's already affecting this fight. It's already affecting this fight. The A side affects the fight, and this is a problem with his predecessor, Floyd Mayweather. Okay, there is no doubting that Floyd Mayweather is the best of this current generation, right? No doubt about it. But he has so many black eyes in the sport because of the way he went about it. You know what I mean? Like, he would wear you out to the point that, like, oh, the night of the fight, oh, those gloves don't work now. We gotta switch all that up. You gotta your cup size is wrong. We gotta switch you out for a different cup. You know, anything that can possibly just constantly drain you and constantly thinking about everything else except for being in the ring and except for being in the fight. They're already doing it to BJ Saunders. I mean, I don't even know. Did he get in there with a tape measure and be like, hey, man, you guys are trying to cheat me here? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. And
team notice right
who's
away.
responsible? Because I would think the promoter, right? For putting up the ring, ordering the ring, getting it up. I mean, if that's written in the contract, as far as I'm concerned, they still got to pay him his money, because that's part of the damn contract, okay? You get that right damn ring, or you pay that man his money for not even fighting.
That is true.
Yeah, because you know they wouldn't be trying
That's the way I see it.
If it wasn't in the contract. Like, they would be like, Billy Joe, I'm not playing these games with you right now. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You know you didn't say nothing about it. No, they're
and
trying
you didn't hear nothing from Canelo's team. That's how you know they were like, you caught us. You caught us.
Damn.
Yeah, but they look for go.
To some of the guys in the gym earlier about it, they were telling me, like, it's not just about the size of the ring too. It's about, like, the material used as far as the canvas.
Right.
Bouncy. Sometimes even, let's say, for guys that use the ropes a lot, they will make it loose where they feel like they're gonna flip out. So it's not just the ring. It's around the ring, the canvas, the consistency, the material. So it sometimes even it's like the lagos, so, you know, because some of those lagos are plastic and they get slippery in there after the water and everything. So you know, basically what they were saying in the gym is like, Canelo just fucking with his mind. Excuse my French, but it's just trying to mess with his mind, trying to throw him off his game, because the fight's gonna go on. The guy's not gonna walk out of, you know, probably his best payday ever. But it's a different thing when you're relaxing, you're getting ready for a fight, then you try to deal with something while you're waiting for fight night. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I think we've beaten this up enough, though. Let's switch topics here. I think it's time for previews, predictions. It's getting a little late here. Rob, you're the one that's been the quietest, so I'm coming to you first. How you see the fight going? And James, you don't need your pen and paper. I'm sure we'll send them. The predictions might change anyway.
A little, yeah.
My opinion is this: Billy Joe Saunders has been blowing smoke up everybody's ass for years now, claiming to be a legit contender, and hasn't showed us anything outside of beating David Lemieux. This is his chance to show and prove. He just tried to get out of it again. That's not going to work this time. You can run, but you can't hide. Even if it is a 24-foot ring. You're not going to be able to survive in there. I have Canelo by knockout. All of this is pissing Canelo off even more, who's actually kept his head on a swivel. He's kept it calm and collective. Nothing short but business this week. And he's really treating this fight as a true testament to his legacy. He's going to knock his damn head off. 6th, 7th round knockout. Canelo.
Okay. All right. James, kind of eager to hear yours.
Okay, I just got to jot that down. 6 or 7. Well, I don't know. I'm not really thinking about a knockout right now. One of the things that came to mind, and I'll just deviate a little bit real quickly, is the rehydration clause comes into effect. I just wonder how big Canelo will be tomorrow as he enters the ring. There was another thing as far as advantages and disadvantages is how long will Billy Joe Saunders be standing in the ring for Canelo to do his ring walk with all the music and the concert and the singers and the performers and all that. I wonder about that. But as the fight goes, if there's a KO, it'll come a lot later. I'm thinking 10 or 11 or maybe 12. If he can zero in on Saunders, we'll see. But in the end, I'm thinking Canelo KO late rounds.
All right. Sakura?
Thank you.
You guys are a trip because you guys just argued what I was saying is that this is not going to matter. This ring size is not going to matter. But okay, I mean, for me, yes, I feel like Canelo will eventually get to Billy Joe. Billy Joe, guys, has been out of the ring. I think, except one fight. I forgot the date. But anyway, before that, he was out for almost 2 years, I believe. So I still think that there's some ring rust or whatever. He may be in the greatest shape of his life, but at the same time, I do feel that he's going to run out of steam at some point towards the 8th or the 9th round. And I believe that by the 9th round, I'm thinking that Canelo's going to have his way. He's going to, debo him up about a ring, and I think he's going to lay him out. I mean, could it be an early knockout too? It's possible because Canelo does have that kind of power. And as James mentioned, he is actually going to be a certain size the night of the fight that is not going to be close to 167.
Size matters.
Size matters for that particular situation, for sure, unless you are Lara.
He
beat him with his size.
You know your boxing.
Everybody's saying Canelo so far. JQ there. Javi, you going to see it any differently?
No, I'm just excited for the tremendous undercard, by the way. But
the straight face.
So wrong right there. Oh my God.
I had to throw it out there. I feel like, I think Canelo's gonna go for it, man. He's gonna try to stop Billy Saunders. Honestly, I don't see an early stoppage because Billy Saunders is just too slick for that. And now, if anything, with the whole shenanigans going on right now, I think he has that pressure now where either if you're going to lose in there, don't lose that bad. Like, don't get beat up in there. Hold your own at least. That'll be your moral victory to go back home and let's say I gave Canelo some type of work. But I think if one thing I gotta respect about Canelo is that he don't let this type of shit get to his head. He also, you gotta admit, even though he gets both of the things for both affects him both, right? So it's negative for Saunders for trying to say something like, well, I just pack it up and leave. It looks irresponsible from your side. And from Canelo's side, asking for these petty things, it looks like, he's having diva requests. So they both having negative press and negative feedback from their fans and stuff like that. But one thing about Canelo is he shows up, he keeps himself a professional, he takes care of business, and then he just basically shut the haters when he wins. So you gotta respect that.
So you are seeing Canelo win?
Canelo win, probably like a late stoppage, but most likely it's gonna be a decision for me.
It sounds like a lot of us are like BJ Saunders is gonna be on his bike all night. Yeah, we seem like
I think that's the plan. Okay, and I expect it to. I expect that early on, Saunders is going to win the early rounds. Okay,
listen,
he is. He's going to win the early rounds. Canelo's going to start to dig to the body and finally start landing in and wearing him down. Okay, but I see this as two half of fights. Okay, I think Saunders pretty much going to win that first half. Canelo's going to win the second half, and then of course you're going to have a close fight. What happens with a close fight? Well, Canelo's going to win. Canelo's going to win by decision, but I don't see a knockout here. Saunders is not somebody that's showing up, just for some paycheck. He actually thinks he can win, and he's going to try his damnedest to actually win. He's not going to put himself back on the ropes like some other fighters that makes no sense to do. He's actually going out there to try to make it as tough as a win for Canelo as humanly possible. If he's not going to win, he's at least going to try to make Canelo look like shit doing it. And with Saunders' style, too, being so unorthodox, he's going to cause Canelo a lot of issues.
Yes, exactly.
But Canelo's still going to pull out the decision. I say by at least 2 points, but I think it will be pretty close.
Ooh, 2 points. I probably would go for more, but just to throw it out there, if this whole back and forth with the ring size, I already knew Saunders was a mover. He's a slick boxer. He's not the type to just stand there and go toe-to-toe the whole fight. But if the one thing that this shenanigans has confirmed us is like, BJ Saunders plans to be on his toes for most of the fight. He plans to move around most of the fight. This is why he wants that extra space so he has more leverage to move around. You know what I'm saying? And I want to see some improvement on Canelo, how he cut off the ring instead of be following. Like that was a complaint about Lara, Trout, and a lot of these movers that he fought. That he just sometimes he gets frustrated, and he's a great puncher, but he doesn't cut off the ring much. Let's see if he sees some improvements in it.
And he has stayed away from those styles until just now. So this is why it's interesting to me, is he's going back to his problem area. This was problematic for him. He's bigger now, okay? His stamina's going to be as good. He could gas out, guys. If Saunders can pull this off, let's not say that Saunders is not able to win this fight, okay? Canelo hasn't had to go deep waters lately. He's been getting some knockouts.
Right. But Lucas, I'm going to tell you something. Let's say if Saunders was to win, I doubt he's going to get a decision in Texas. And I don't mean to,
That's why I said it close, but yeah, it's going Canelo.
It could be like another Triple G thing where, it's a draw, or even though we know what it is, and then, the rematch and blah, blah, blah. Because one thing is Canelo, let's say if it's a close fight or a draw type thing, Canelo will get better and will take care of business the second time. But it's that one time. Is that first time? You know what I'm saying? God would have known what would have happened if the right decision would have gone with him and Triple G on the first fight. But
guys, y'all making me so confused now, James. I might have to change my prediction because you guys are making me feel like, well, damn. If all this stuff is true that you guys are saying, then would his coach Reynosa be like, hey, go ahead and get this dude out of here? You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to deal with this southpaw issues. You don't have to deal with stamina issues. He's so worried about the damn ring. Well, I don't know what for, because we planning on knocking him out in the first round. So I'm like on the fence now as to what I think the strategy will be for Canelo.
Oh, there's no doubt he is not going for no first round knockout. That is all talk to sell tickets he is trying to box and move and be on his horse.
Said that? Oh, that he.
I got to give props to Team Canelo. They work every angle. Okay, every little detail. I mean, let's see what happens tomorrow with the ring walks and how long that takes and how long Billy Joe Saunders is standing there and ring size and weight and everything. These guys are sharp.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why take the chance of looking bad against BJ for any number of rounds, especially after that Yildirim debacle? I'm like, Reynoso might be like, man, go ahead and get this dude out of here for real.
All right. And yeah, let's hope we don't have any more DAZN issues. I know the app is all whacked out sometimes. It's had some issues with people logging in and just showing black screens and stuff. So I hope everybody gets to watch that's actually paying for this fight.
Right.
Guys, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about? I'm thinking about wrapping things up. It is getting late.
Yeah, I saw the Katie Taylor fight on the weekend. I saw that live. I had a little time off during the day. The production, everything looked perfect. Okay. Excellent feed. So, hopefully it's just as good. I saw no problem with DAZN.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just Fire Stick or something other.
It just seems like it happens when there's so many people trying to access the app at the same time.
Like a server goes down or something.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, like it seems like it's more of a problem when it's a bigger fight, more eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we don't get none of that.
That she'll address.
Please.
Guys, I just I know you're wrapping up. I just wanted to, give it a minute to the situation that's happening. I don't know if we touched on that. It just
yes.
It affects everything, and we all have a sister, a mom, a daughter, somebody that's special to us. These are women. So honestly, I've been away from the whole commenting and having an opinion about it. But as things coming to surface, and you seeing the facts and all these charges gathering up, you can't help but to think like, wow, it's incredible that a human person can even think and do things like that. And not only that, but it's somebody that we knew as an athlete that we hoped to be a champion. We actually supported at one point. We thought about him, really, really well, and we hope for the best. Only God can judge people. It's just for the boxing world out there. It's a sad week because of everything of going on with Verdejo, with PR, the case, and his the girl that was pregnant and the thing that happens to her. In behalf of heavyweight boxing, we just me personally wanted to throw it out there that we basically wish nothing but good thoughts to the family. Hopefully justice will come, not just in this case for this particular person, but for anybody that's going through this situation like that. And for us boxing fans, it really affects us because it makes you realize things go beyond the ring. There's things that happen in real life. So I just wanted to give it thought a little bit about that.
No, I definitely appreciate that, and I want to say there's help out there. Look for your women's shelters. Call somebody, anybody, but get out of those situations if at all possible. And it just adds so much more heartache knowing that this weekend is Mother's Day of all weekends. So.
Very much so. The only thing I wanted to say to add, based on what James and Javi was explaining to me about, Mexico not even having laws on the books for domestic violence, and then Puerto Rico with this, just rampant cases of domestic violence. Something has to be done about that long term. It can't just only be a highlight when it's someone, that's famous or more famous involved in a situation like that. For somewhere like Puerto Rico, I don't know how many options women or men have to get out of that situation. I don't know, how many women's shelters or battered people's shelters they are and stuff like that. So it's definitely something that we should, everyone should be trying to shine a light on as far as the issue.
Yeah, the only thing I can say in addition to that is that I really feel for her and for her family. They're going through a lot of pain right now, and it's sad and it's unfortunate. in regards to the fighter. That was what brings us together here, is the fighters. To speak of him a little bit, you made a very interesting point, Sakura, recently on our conversations about damages that he may have suffered in the sport, and that's something I've been thinking about a lot. I mean, there's other cases too that kind of border on this. There's a lot of parallels. I think you called it CTE.
Yes.
And it's a serious thing. There's a reason why in amateurs they wear headgear. It's a serious issue, and just goes to show you can't play boxing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel for her family though. So
Yeah, very much so.
It's tough. It really is.
And
Well-
women, we have to be careful too. We have to, like, everything that looks good and glitters, and you want to get with someone famous, or not saying that this young lady wanted to, but a lot of times we know it does happen, and we're not taking care or putting up our guard and barriers around people with influence sometimes as much as we should. I mean, I really feel it's horrible for just the fact that you can trust a man and feel that they're keep you safe, and that they're going to be a certain way with you respectfully. And when that doesn't happen, it's also a situation where, we as women gotta be strong, and we gotta be resilient at making sure we protect our boundaries physically, emotionally, and all of that.
Definitely agree with you there. On behalf of all of Heavy Bag Boxing, definitely want you all to hug your mothers this weekend really tightly. Tell them you love them every day. All right. I want to thank again Lou Moret for coming on. Great guest. I think my new favorite interview by far. We're definitely going to have him on again soon.
He's so adorable. He was just so cute. I mean, just like the way he was explaining stuff and everything. I feel like the judge, he there was a couple of questions that some of us were asking, and I think he was just like, he is very strict about the point of being fair, and being like non-judge, non-impartial, making sure you're impartial. Like, that's his theme throughout. So that's good to see, out of judges.
Definitely.
There's a point that he made. I'll be super quick here. A local fighter here in Los Angeles, Miguel Vasquez, went up to England to fight, and he fought O'Hara Davies at welterweight. And I don't know that he was aware of this, and he's fought in England a few times. But referee, at the end of the fight, went and got O'Hara Davies, brought him to the middle of the ring, raised his hand, and that was it. And O'Hara Davies looked at him and said, "I didn't win this fight, man." And he went over and told Miguel Vasquez, "You won. You won this fight." So I don't really dig referees being involved in judging whatsoever.
I can see bringing it in the case of a draw, but again, you're taking away from the reffing, so you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't there. I agree. I think the judging and the way we have it here is much better.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've kind of beaten it up. But yeah, I just want to thank him again for coming on the show. Other than that, like I said, have a good Mother's Day weekend, and we will see you back on Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Happy got guns.
Bye.
Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Hopefully with some a guest of some kind. We're not gonna say who just yet. Stick to all of your social media here at Heavy Bag Boxing. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and say it now. We're gonna have Canelo.
Thank you.